William, atomized in the rupture.
William was in a hollow chamber. The dream narrator said so. Light flickered. Perhaps he emitted this flickering light. Sometimes the curving walls were formed of impacted earth and fungal stones densely inscribed with lines and walls, ones and zeros. But when he looked more closely, he couldn't read those codes. And filaments of wire or dusty webbing or tangled fibrous roots drifted across his face like insect limbs, and the walls became bony, slippery with secreted fluid, and white matter puffed into everything. There was a pillar at the centre, and she was tied to it, her flow of fine hair falling across bare back, pale buttocks, and she turned, smiling, and released her wrists, and took off her head with a single motion, and offered it, eyes gleaming. The dream really went further these days, and William, sweating in his sleeping bag on the lumpy mattress, had been saved by the bleeping digits of the clock, and now, as he stumped about in the tiny bathroom, he was determined to take a grip on the physical world, the worn plastic cistern handle, the mottled mirror displaying his face. Dr. William Crowe had never been tempted to change his face by some magical procedure, or change his ID by playing games with a collapsing bureaucracy, even by hacking through networks and infiltrating his corrupted files. None of that would have convinced him in the lower levels of his being, for the defensive languages encoded in his face had somehow irradiated his entire infrastructure. Crowe hated the image of his balding head as he urinated in the bleary light. But this was smoggy summer in the outlands of London. Forget your forgettable face, nightmares about brains and sex. Go for bathroom gropes and pangs. A cratered tooth sang of corruption as cold bacterial water surged under the dentine. Bowel shakes would wobble him later. Oh, he's always a worried organism. Who had forwarded his CV to Pleasure Centres plc? Some smart headhunter. It was a diabolical liberty, as South Londoners used to say. He hadn't applied for a job in months. Did he really have to find all his certificates in time for this interview? Oh, they'd be in a database somewhere in the silicate wrinkles of the lobe, almost certainly corrupted, ciphers lost in hyperspace, his lost competencies. Hurry up, William. Stop dreaming. Get a move on. His mother's imperious voice over 50 years ago, squally with lungfuls of refined indignation. William! Down that little hall, across the brown linoleum patterned by golden lozenges of afternoon light. No, he never wanted to hurry after piano lessons. He wanted to sit and finish his Meccano aeroplane. He dreaded most human interfaces, interviews, or intercourse. But if he failed to attend, his meagre benefits would erase themselves, wouldn't they? He'd meant to scan the morning's multimedia, catch the 8 o'clock Loeb update. Too much retrospection already. Always scanning for memories that weren't quite there. He shuffled across the bedsit room, trying to ignore skeins of mould on the walls, sidestepping those damned fluffed-up clumps of carpet. He rummaged through the identikit of his possessions. The name on his old ID pass was the authentic Dr. William Arthur Crowe, MSc, PhD. High security had to be exact in these matters. Surely the guard at the research establishment used to smirk as he checked William through the gate and raised the boom to admit the rover to the reserved parking place. William may have been a top-drawer boffin, but he had this moony loon face which once made a girl at a sixth form dance giggle into her handkerchief. He blamed his mother back then. He tried the Loeb Newsnet again as he munched and slurped. Toast, coffee, and a big shot of Dawn Surprise, the budget-priced North Korean vodka. Breakfast of champions. He had to learn which were the morning's relatively safe routes into the central London sector, to the head offices of Pleasure Centres plc. The old monitor blipped and flickered. The mouse was grease encrusted, but there was something happening. The screen filled with the quivering monochrome image of a monitor. This wasn't the Newsnet logo. And on this screen within a screen, William could see two identical faces, Caucasian male, clean cut, 40 plus. Sober, square-headed men in suits and ties, anyway. Solid, no-nonsense men with shiny, well-parted hair, like old 1950s publicity photos of band leaders, movie gangsters, radio announcers. Each stared formally out of a flickering oval halo. Their graphite-coloured lips moved jerkily in unison.